fact that this is a session on Visualize Your Thesis and 3-minute Thesis. It's, these competitions are delivered by GRED, Graduate Research Education and Development. And we offer a hell of a lot more than just a couple of competitions. Hopefully you've come across this already. There's a whole range of training opportunities that you can find with us. What we're going to cover today is some of the benefits and eligibility for the competitions, looking at each of the competitions, and then have a little bit of fun towards the end. Now, we're giving this presentation on both of the competitions because they're actually really close in the skills that you need for you to enter them. One competition, obviously, Visualize Your Thesis, is done with pictures, while 3-minute Thesis is done as a sort of a stand-up presentation like I'm doing here. So the delivery is different, but the actual approach that you need to take for both of them is extremely similar. You need to boil your research down to its essential elements and then deliver it to a non-specialized audience for both of them. And you'll see that phrase referred to a few times, a non-general, a general audience, a non-discipline specific audience. That's our target market, more or less, for these competitions. And they're communication competitions, so you need to communicate clearly what your research is about in each of these different ways. That's essentially what these competitions are. There are a number of benefits for entering these competitions, largely, I think, unrecognized at the start, that the main reason to enter the competition really is to build some of your communication skills rather than just kind of competing in a competition. And there's also unforeseen benefits as well, which I would like to share with you in a video, which I'm really hoping is going to work. Sorry about that, just have to move the screen.
So one thing I would say is that this has been amazing in terms of...
Now, given our difficulty before, Kerry, can you tell me whether that video is both audio and visual?
Perfect. It's perfect.
Oh, yes.
I was just about to put it in the chat for you.
Okay.
Promoting my research. It will be the one thing that people that are Googling my topic, they'll find that. And I just think it's been this amazing opportunity to send my research out there, and it's reached an audience far, far bigger than I ever could have imagined, and that has been awesome.
Now,
one of my key...
This, I should have said, is actually the winner of the Visualize Your Thesis competition last year, Callie. And not only did she win the QUT competition, but she actually won the international competition as well, and we'll be looking at her entry in a minute. But this is just her talking about some of the benefits that she got, and now she's going to give an example of an unexpected encounter.
I've volunteered her for a HDR study at school because pay it forward, and the woman is like, "Oh, you're a HDR student," and she goes, "What are you studying?" And I sent her the link, and she goes, "Oh, actually, I've seen it, and I was discussing it with a radiologist at a Christmas party." So this random lady is like, "Oh yeah, I know about that," and that's amazing.
Yeah, so it is amazing. So Callie's Visualize Your Thesis entry has kind of gone global, I guess, being the international winner. So well done to Callie, and we'll come back to her in a minute. So the skills that we do expect you will be building competition involve presentation skills primarily, but it actually might also help you with your research. You're being asked in these competitions to clarify what you're doing in as succinct a way as possible. And I've, in my experience, past participants have found that it has actually helped them to better understand their own research in being able to encapsulate what they're talking about in as fewer ideas, as fewer images, or as fewer dot points, more or less, for the 3-minute thesis as possible. So we strongly encourage that you, when you join the competitions, that you also participate in some of the training activities that we have available, which will help you develop some of these skills as well. Now, if I am pausing through some of these slides, these are actually some of the ones that Catherine was going to present. So I'm actually just kind of refreshing my own memory about it. She's included a great quote here, which is from the Visualise Your Thesis competition. In a climate of knowledge exchange and community engagement, communicating to an audience outside the academy, so outside of your discipline, outside of academia, is becoming increasingly important for research professionals. So I think there's the benefits go beyond just the university environment, but developing this pitch that you can have for your own research, I expect will help you in maybe applying for jobs later on, and just explaining your research to people outside of the university. So I guess one of the benefits of the competition is it kind of gives your research exposure that it might not normally get in, like Callie was saying, in non-traditional areas. Normally, I guess the exposure would happen in conferences and journal papers within academia, but Callie winning the Visualise Your Thesis competition just opened up so many more opportunities for her to promote her research beyond the university, even to Christmas parties with radiologists. Now, both competitions are open to all HDR students, high degree research students. So that includes the Masters of Philosophy and all the doctoral students. Just 1 point for the 3-minute thesis. Unfortunately, only the doctoral students are eligible to go into the Asia Pacific Grand Final, but that doesn't prevent you from entering the QUT competition and in fact taking out the Grand Final for QUT. So we'll focus on the 3-minute thesis to start with. It is, as its name suggests, a 3-minute presentation. And as opposed to the Visualise Your Thesis, does not have many images at all. You are allowed one slide that's kind of behind you for the whole time. You're not to include any props. And it is this like costumes or any objects that you could possibly hold. And it is spoken word only. You'll be judged on comprehension and content, engagement and communication, which we'll come to in a minute. The 3-minute thesis invites you to put together a compelling and concise presentation of your thesis and its significance. So this is quite a good overall summary, like in one sentence, of what you'd be aiming for in this competition. In fact, you could say that for both competitions. So in order to do that, you need to consolidate your ideas and your research discoveries and encapsulate them in a pitch that is for everyday people off the street. I think, now I'm going to misquote him here, but I read yesterday that Einstein said something about you need to be able to explain your ideas to your grandmother or something like that. So your grandmother, you know, representing a non-specialist audience. You could even try it on your grandmother before bringing it to the university to see whether she understands it. The 3-minute thesis has been growing over the last few years. It started off in 2008 from the University of Queensland. It's now across more than 900 institutions and in more than 80 countries worldwide. So it's grown quite significantly, and it's grown from you know, from the university down the river, so somewhere close by. One way for you to build your skills in the competition is to look at what other past entrants and past winners have done. So we strongly encourage you to do that for both competitions. And Kerry, thank you, has just posted those links on the screen for you to look at some past winners. It will give you really good tips about the flavour of what it's about, and some insight into perhaps how they have approached their presentations. Now, we're going to try another video. Risky as it seems. Well, let's see what happens with this one. We're going to watch the winner from last year. Now, this goes for 3 minutes. Now, last year, of course, with COVID, we had to change the way that 3-minute thesis is approached. Normally, you stand in a room with a group of people and you deliver your presentation. With COVID, that meant that that wasn't going to be possible. And so entrants delivered to camera. We provided the camera facilities for that to happen. And then the videos were played at the certain dates and for the judges. And so we'll be continuing that idea this year, so that even though it's a similar experience in the presentation, it's quite different without having an audience there. And I guess there's a few more talking to camera skills that this can also build for you. So this one was done to camera. And yeah, this is just to give you a bit of an idea of what it's like. From the winner from last year. Let's have a look. It's okay, there is no sound to start with. I think the sound's coming.
Our cells need energy to work, and that is mostly obtained by using oxygen. A small portion of the energy, however, can be obtained without oxygen. This second option is only for emergencies of very high energy demand. For example, when we suddenly sprint to catch the bus. Now, when a cell becomes cancerous, many things change, including the way to obtain energy. As you can see, the balance scale is reversed here because the energy without oxygen becomes the main source. This phenomenon is a hallmark of cancer, and it's very relevant because that's how cancer cells get the energy to keep growing and growing constantly. In my research, I'm trying to develop new drugs to shut down cancer's main source of energy. So this is the problem, and the strategy to solve it.
So we'll just pause it there. And so I guess that was establishing the reason for the research. That was 1 minute, so you got to see 1/3 of what the presentation would be. I'd encourage you to go back and click on the link and have a look at the rest of it. That link is also, and in fact all those links are available on the HiQ site for the competition. So you could see from that these kind of like hand gestures is very important here. I mean, Farhan did look like a TV presenter without having any previous experience in that sort of thing. So those kind of skills are actually really useful. as useful, I think, as standing up in front of a crowd. I mean, they're very similar, but Varane did a great job, I think, to camera. And you can also see from that his one slide was placed in the corner. I mean, when it's in front of a crowd, it's just on the projector screen. So that's what the 3-minute thesis entries will look like, and what you'll be aiming towards as you go through. I mean, for producing the final product. The competition rules: 1 slide only, 3 minutes maximum. As I said, there's no costumes, musical instruments, or lab equipment. And also you can't sing it or rap it even. No poetry. It's a pity. I kind of like some poems, but anyway. Now, this is like the assessment criteria when you're doing an undergrad assignment, the judging criteria. You're going to be judged on comprehension and content. Basically, did you describe your research well? And did you describe it in a clear and logical sequence? Did you describe it in an appropriate way for, as I was talking before, the non-specialist audience, and your timing? But equally, engagement and communication, so the way that you deliver. The first part is what you deliver, and the second part that you're judged on is the way you deliver. So are you capturing the audience's attention? Do you have a presence? You know, Varane really seemed to know what he was on about there. And he spoke with enthusiasm. As I said, there's training available. There's a couple of workshops that I'll cover in a sec. So we start with this information webinar. You have a couple of opportunities for training. There's faculty finals, and those finalists go through to the grand final while having some further coaching sessions on the way. After that, there is an Asia Pacific international competition as well. And just very briefly, the training sessions that are coming up, one on the 5th of May, which is mostly about planning your presentation. A little bit about public speaking, but that was more of the focus in the second of the series. So this one's a lot about what you will be delivering. And then the second webinar is learning techniques to present more confidently. So that one's on the 17th of June. And thank you, Kerry, for posting links to those in the chat as well. And of course, you can find these links in the HiQ page. So that was 3-minute thesis. Now we're going to move on to visualize your thesis. And the concepts are extremely similar for both of these. Essentially, you need to sum up your research in a way that is a lot shorter than you might normally do, and in this case, in a format that you might not normally do. So in this one, you have to come up with a 1-minute visual presentation. That's it. It's pretty simple, but easy to say, but not so easy to do. As Kelly, the winner from last year, pointed out, the reason why you might want to do it is to promote not only your research, but your research profile. Imagine how many people have now heard of Kelly and what she's doing. And as with the other competition, to build your communication skills. And sure, if you win, you take away a little bit of cash. What skills do you need? Communication skills, but slightly different communication skills from the 3-minute thesis. You need to concentrate on 2 key elements. The first one being the content of your research. You need to be really clear and simplify your message even more than 3-minute thesis. You know, we heard Farhan talk for a minute. The way to approach this one is to consider the concepts of your research and then determine how you can picture that with images. So you need to avoid the complexity and just drill down to as few messages as possible. It's also important to deliver it with impact, so it needs to be interesting and memorable. So it is important to find perhaps a slightly different angle on your research to show it in its best light. Do you need to be a tech genius? No, you don't. In fact, Kelly only did hers within PowerPoint. She did some animations, we'll see in a sec, and had little experience in doing that sort of thing prior. So it's possible to submit either a PowerPoint presentation that runs for exactly a minute or a video for this competition. But the key thing with both of those is it needs to be, if you consider that it needs to be able to be delivered without the sound. So you can have sound for this competition. And in fact, I encourage you to have some sort of sound. Most entrants at least put an audio track in with, say, music or something other that's significant. But it needs to be able to be understood if the sound was turned off. So I don't know, you could think of it like a Charlie Chaplin silent movie. Now, everything that is delivered needs to be as if the sound was off, even though it's possible to include some sound. How might you do that? Well, this is an exercise in storytelling. So, like all good stories, you need to create what's known as the narrative arc. If you're wondering what the narrative arc is, it's it's all those things that are included underneath there. But perhaps most importantly, the last one. So a narrative arc has a beginning, and a middle and an end. And in there, there's a development of characters, tension. You know, tension might be the high point before it comes to an ending. That's why it's called a narrative arc. So look for all these the ways that good storytellers tell their stories. They use characters. Are you the main character, or who is the main character? Who's the protagonist? You know, who is your research addressing? Is there tension? You know, we don't often talk about tension as far as research is concerned, but you know, if there's a research gap, if there's something that is missing that your research is filling, then there may be a certain tension there. You know, here is something that needs to be solved. How can it be done? You know, there's a challenge. Are you going to be able to meet the challenge? That sort of thing. So look for some sort of tension. Maybe you could look for comedy. Maybe look for tragedy. I guess this relates to the impact. You know, how are you going to make it interesting and memorable? You know, why are people going to be interested in watching your 1-minute visualization of your thesis? All important things to consider, and things that we'll be discussing as part of the training for this one as well. Okay, now we're going to have a look at Kelly's winning entry from last year, which the judges said was great communication and salesmanship. So I included that for the important element of salesmanship. It is a promotion of your work. So keep that in mind. Let's play it and see if it works. Okay, that was pretty simple, wasn't it? There was not much to that. But it definitely had a beginning and a middle and an end. What I might do is actually, I might get a bit of participant interaction going and ask you a question. Maybe just one part of it. So in my view, the beginning involved the introduction in Kelly's video. The beginning involved the introduction of the characters. We were shown what the issue was from the beginning, and then the middle was the dramatic bit where we found out that some of these people, the characters that we'd been introduced to, they're being exposed to radiation. So there's a tension, a kind of a drama there. And then there was an ending that kind of wrapped everything up. What I'd like you to put into the chat now is, in one sentence, how did Kelly resolve this story? What was her ending that made it feel like you could go, oh yeah, that's it. And there's more than one way of doing this. I mean, when you're doing it for yourself. Play it again, Sam. Oh, okay. So I'll play it, but you can start putting stuff in the chat now. So here's the introduction. Getting into the middle. Here's the drama. Dramatic tension. Now, there isn't one answer to this. So I imagine there's more than one answer to the ending that that Kelly's put in. But what do you think it is? Let me see. Okay, so Luana says, Kelly proposed solutions and then finished with a catchy, protect the people that care for us. Protect the people that care for us. That's exactly right, isn't it? The resolution in I think in what you're saying there is that it was bringing it home that it wasn't just cartoon characters, but it was people like us. Yeah, I like that one. To a call for action. Yes, so the story kind of ended, but then there's something else now we can do to fix it. So that was a good part of the ending. Raising awareness. Yeah, protect the people that care. Just scrolling through. Yeah, so I think maybe that the first answer for me is perhaps the most important in the resolution of this story, in that for me there's a real aha moment at the end. It's like, oh, you know how she kind of fades the cartoon characters into the real people. It's like, oh, this is real. That these nurses are real, and it's people like us that need to be protected. Yeah, it's a great little story. As per the 3-minute thesis, there is help at hand for you. There is some information on HiQ where there's all of the details in a competitor's pack. So I encourage you to go and download that. I think Carrie might be posting a list of links in a sec. So this, if you go to the HiQ page for Visualise Your Thesis, there's quite a lot there. Then we have some Blackboard resources, which helps you actually plan your presentation. And those resources will be reinforced through a webinar called Designing Your Presentation. And then after that, leading up to when the competition is due, there'll be some feedback sessions from both myself and from peers. Now's the fun part. We've seen how Kelly has encapsulated her research into a series of images, and how Farhan also included one image for his 3-minute thesis. What I would like you to do now is have a go yourself. And what I've done is I have initiated a Padlet, which is really just like a bulletin board, online bulletin board, if you haven't come across a Padlet in the past. And I would like you to find one image right now, find one image that encapsulates, that sums up your research. Now, this might not be, it definitely won't be the perfect image, because I'm only giving you a minute to do this. You have to, maybe you have an image stored on your computer. Maybe you need to Google something about your topic and find an image. And you can also use the Padlet search as well to do it. I'm actually going to bring up the Padlet. So I think Kerry is going to, if not, yeah, so Kerry has plonked the link to the Padlet. So once you open it, it should look like this. I've included a couple of examples already. So what I'd like you to do, all you need to do is, I'm assuming you can see this. Kerry and Victoria, tell me if you can't. You either double click on the board, or you can single click on this plus sign. You don't need to put a title in. All you need to do is either upload an image or link to an image, or you can also search for an image. So you can put any topic in here, radiation. And let's say it was Kelly, and Kelly just chose that one. That's all you need to do. Don't worry. And then if you just click out, and that'll be done. So that's the first part. And hopefully that will only take you a minute. I might just delete that one. And then for 5 minutes after that, what I'd like you to do is like what I've done here with these anonymous ones. I want you to take a punt, take a guess at a number of these images. Guess what they are. So don't tell. So someone has put a title in there. So we don't want you to put a title. We just want an image. Because we want people to guess what the research is about. But then you go to other people's images and you guess what their research is about. That's the game. See if you can guess correctly the research topic of everybody else. So these are the two that are there are kind of just fake ones. So I mean, you're welcome to have a go as well, but they're just to show you what it should look like. But this one, we should get rid of this, does social safety net matter? That's the title. We want an image. And because this game is like, well, as the title says, communicate your thesis in one image. You never know, it might take off. You could do it every year. Okay, so once you've posted your image, go to other people's images and click down in the comments. So see underneath it, it says add comment. You know, this is like a drink bottle and some like bubbles. So this, I might say, yeah, this research is about developing effervescence in lemonade. You know, I don't know. Just give it a go. You have 5 minutes. Put any questions in the chat. Go for it. And please don't spend long finding your image because unfortunately we just don't have time. Just a game after all. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. I can see some comments and some images. That's excellent. Look at you guys go. Come on, there should be more images than that. There's like, it should be like 20, 25 images. Hey, I'm digging that groovy Beatles one. Now I'm just going to delete the ones that were on display. No, can't. I imagine this first one here about children maintaining a healthy weight I imagine that subtitle has just come up automatically. That's fine. Your research may or may not revolve around that subtitle. No, this is a popular one. An American dollar bill in a garbage bin. How to stop wasting money. Okay. 2 more minutes. If you haven't found your image yet, just choose the first one that you land on, okay? And then write a couple of comments.
Would you mind relinking the Padlet, please?
Kerry, are you able to do that?
Yep, we'll do right now.
Thanks, Kerry. Okay. Thanks for that. That was fun. Now let's have a look at a couple. I'm interested in the ones that both have a range of responses and those that seem to have a similar response. I don't know whether it's possible to, maybe I might ask a couple of people how close they are, the guesses are. This one that says stop ecocide, do you have a microphone? If you do, can you please turn it on and tell us whether your research is anywhere near pollution, nuclear power, carbon capture, or climate change?
Yes.
So tell us what your research is about.
So it is looking at like anthropocentric climate change and coming up with creative and critical responses to that, trying to draw the relationship into the body. Yeah.
Well, it looks like you've done a good job with your image, although it's mostly words, but still it's graphical.
I tried to change it. Yeah, I was just madly Googling to just the pollution.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, good job. And what about, I love this Beatles one, Abbey Road. Thanks, Lawana. Does the person with the Abbey Road selfie one have a microphone, or if not, put it in the chat and tell us whether your research is anywhere near any of these guesses.
Hello.
Yeah, hi.
Actually, so yeah, all the guesses is in a right direction. Like my one is to work on to make some technology or some devices that will prevent pedestrian to use mobile phone at the pedestrian crossing. So it's similar to road safety, yeah.
Ah, Hey, yeah, they're not too bad, are they? Selfie age and road safety. How about that one? That's pretty good. Pretty close.
Yeah.
Okay. What we're going to do, we won't have time to go through them all, but we might get a feel. So this is like a game in seeing if you can find an image that best sums up your work, which is what you'll need to do in both of these competitions. Let's see how well you've gone, because I'm going to now ask you in a poll. The guesses that people gave for my research topic were A, amazingly correct, B, a little bit correct, or C, not even remotely close. How do you feel about this one? When looking at the responses that people have given to the image that you put up there, I can tell you it's neck and neck so far, but a little bit correct is winning. Okay, I'm going to call it. We'll end the poll. See what the results are. There we go. Well, yeah, so kind of a bit of a spread there. Most people did reasonably well, and only 3 people were not even remotely close. Something to work on for those ones. But of course, as I said, there wasn't really enough time for you to get the image. It was, maybe you were lucky to have one at hand, but it was fun trying. We should move on. Back to the PowerPoint. So anyway, the registrations are now open for both of these competitions. There's training in May and in June. Entries close for both competitions on the 9th of July. And then winners for both competitions are actually announced in faculty final competitions in August and July. And the winners of the faculty competitions go through to the QUT Grand Final, which is announced as part of the Graduate Research Student Showcase on the 15th of September. That's the dates for the faculty competition finals. What you can start doing now is, if you could please actually enter the competitions. The link to the entry is on the HiQ page for the Visualise Your Thesis one and the 3-minute thesis one. And start considering what you're going to do in approaching your entry. And I strongly suggest that you look at past entries on both HiQ pages. There are links to past entries. And just remember that these, like I said at the start, these are more than just competitions where there is prize money involved. They're actually a great opportunity to develop some of your skills and to get feedback along the way by using this as a vehicle to develop your skills. This is going to be great for networking, getting a job, and just promoting your thesis in other opportunities, in other locations than what you might normally have otherwise done. Just quickly wrapping up, this is where you can find out more information, not only about the competitions, but about training generally. The Blackboard links are part of the Grad Blackboard page. And the Blackboard site is largely where we store recordings of and resources from events, and also in some cases additional information. There's HiQ. We send out regular e-updates, and I'd strongly encourage you to also visit this skills assessment tool. There is not much time, but I'm willing to stay on after 1 o'clock if there are any questions. You're willing to, you're quite welcome to post questions in the chat or turn your microphone on and ask me. So that's a wrap for the information center, information section, but any questions? Shoot, 2 questions in chat. What are they? Would it be better to participate during final year of research? Oh, okay. So the question is, what part of my research is best to participate? I suppose if you're participating towards the end of your research, you probably will have more to talk about, particularly from a results point of view. But if you consider Kelly's Visualise Your Thesis, for example, most of that is actually establishing the need for the research. So I think it's possible to enter the competition earlier in your candidature, but the focus may differ a little bit. More towards the end, you'll be focusing more on the results, what it is you found. If you're earlier on in your research, you're more likely to be focusing on establishing the reason why you might want to look at this particular problem. Can we sign up for training but participate in the competition next year? Yes, you can come along to the training even if you haven't signed up. That would be fine. Where in the research journey are participants usually at? Oh, okay, I think I've answered that. But so I suppose if they're, I think it might be difficult to do it like pre-confirmation, if you're full-time, in your first year, because you're probably still working out what your research is about. But on a standard trajectory, I would expect 2nd and 3rd year students, if they're full-time, or anything post-confirmation, I think is possible. What else do we have? Where is the 3-minute thesis entering link on the GRED? The link to enter isn't on the GRED Blackboard site, it is on the HiQ site. So the Blackboard site is more around information about how to put your presentations together. The HiQ site directs you to training and is just the background information on what the competitions are about.